Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus appointed as the head of interim government in Bangladesh. Hectic efforts on to form the government. Indian High Commission in Dhaka continues to function normally. Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7 attacks, is the new political leader of Hamas. Hezbollah continues to fire rockets into Israel. Israeli jets hit back. India's dream shattered. Vinesh Phogat disqualified from the Paris Olympics ahead of the gold medal wrestling bout. In Bangladesh, after a major reshuffle on Tuesday at the top level in the army, new authorities have reconstituted the police force of the country on Wednesday. The new regime replaced Additional Inspector General of Police Mohammad Harun Rashid as the Director General of the Rapid Action Battalion with AKM Shahidur Rahman. Mohammad Manul Hassan has been appointed the new Commissioner of the Dhaka Metropolitan Police. On Tuesday night, a meeting was held at the Banga Bhavan between President Mohammad Shahabuddin, three chiefs of the armed forces and coordinators of the anti-discrimination students movement, and it was decided to make the Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus as the head of the interim government. Besides this, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party has announced to hold a rally in front of its Naya Paltan central office on Wednesday. And Nobel laureate and head of Bangladesh interim government Muhammad Yunus has said that he looked forward to return to the country and prepare its future after recent protests forced Prime Minister to leave. Talking to the media at the Paris airport as he boarded a flight to Dhaka, Yunus said that he looked forward to going back to Bangladesh and to see what's happening and how they can organize themselves to get out of trouble that they are in. Meanwhile, non-essential staff and families from the High Commission of India in Dhaka have returned to India on Wednesday via a commercial flight. Indian diplomats and officials continue working as the High Commission of India in Dhaka remains functional. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Tuesday had said in the Parliament that India is looking forward to for the situation to stabilize. The British police are braced for further riots across England. According to reports, at least 30 protests could be witnessed on Wednesday. Police sources say nearly 6,000 officers have been mobilized for maintaining law and order. Further, MPs with offices near the locations of planned demonstrations have already been warned by Parliament's security team about the possible disorder. They've been asked to reconsider working from home. This comes as Prime Minister Keir Starmer convened his second emergency coordination meeting with the police chiefs on Tuesday. Starmer said he's now expecting substantive sentencing of rioters within days. So far, authorities have made over 400 arrests and filed charges against more than 100 people in relation to the recent riots.
People now have been arrested. 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week. That should send a very powerful message to anybody involved, either directly or online, that you are likely to be dealt with within a week, and that nobody should be involving themselves in this disorder.
With the wave of violence escalating further, leader of right-wing Reform Party Nigel Farage has said that he was not responsible for inciting violent protests. In an interview, he said that he himself now faced security concerns as a result of the criticism of his comments on the Southport killings. He said he believed that different communities in the United Kingdom faced differing treatment by the police on the basis of their race.
At no point in the last week or in the previous 30 years have I ever encouraged the use of violence, have I ever encouraged the use of anti-democratic means. And yet, you know, you get the internet and people saying things on the internet. I have had nothing to do with any form of street violence now or at any point in my career.
The stunning transformation of the 2024 presidential race of the United States reached new heights when Vice President Kamala Harris unveiled her running mate Tim Walz after a sequence of events. The joint appearance of Kamala Harris and Walz kicked off a multi-day tour of the battleground states aimed at introducing Walz to the national stage. Take a look at this report.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, made their first public appearance together at a rally in Philadelphia on Tuesday.
Since the day that I announced my candidacy,
Harris devoted much of her speech introducing Walz to the audience.
The day that I announced my candidacy, I set out to find a partner who can help build this brighter future. A leader who will help unite our nation and move us forward. A fighter for the middle class. A patriot who believes, as I do, in the extraordinary promise of America. A promise of freedom, opportunity, and justice, not just for some, but for all. So Pennsylvania, I'm here today because I found such a leader.
Tim Walz revved up the crowd for the rigorous campaign to come ahead. He hit the ground running as he went after Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance.
I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. I got to tell you, pointing out just an observation of mine that I made. I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
The Trump campaign too didn't waste time launching a counterattack, labeling Walz as a far-left liberal. Vance said Walz was on the far left of the Democratic Party and chosen because Harris was a radical herself.
Obviously, the big news of the day is that Tim Walz has been nominated as the VP, or is now the presumptive nominee, I should say, for Kamala Harris. My view on it is it just highlights how radical Kamala Harris is. This is a person who listened to the Hamas wing of her own party and selecting a nominee. This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does.
Walz grew up in a small town in Nebraska. He was a teacher, coach, and union member at a high school before entering politics. He successfully ran for governor in 2018 and was re-elected in 2022. Walz is sync with Kamala on key issues like same-sex marriage and abortion rights. Harris and Walz will spend the next 5 days touring critical battleground states, including Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada.
Wow.
Bureau Report, DD India.
And Thailand's Constitutional Court on Wednesday ordered the dissolution of the anti-establishment opposition party Move Forward, ruling its campaign to amend the law that protects monarchy from criticism. The decision comes 6 months after the same court ordered Move Forward to drop its plan to reform a law on royal insults.
to be a hoax device, meaning that the device was actually incapable.
The police on Tuesday detonated what they said was a hoax device at a satellite campus of the University of Toronto in Canada. They had earlier described it as an explosive device. Investigation is underway, but it was not immediately clear who may have been responsible for leaving the device. Two women from the Italian branch of the organization People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, on Wednesday interrupted the weekly audience presided over by Pope Francis in the Vatican City. The protesters disrupted the service by shouting and holding up banners against bullfighting. A hotel located in the town of Krov in Germany partially collapsed, killing 2 people. More people are trapped inside the wreckage. Rescue efforts are underway with no information on the cause of the incident. California's 4th largest wildfire on record, the Park Fire has torched 414,000 acres as of Tuesday morning and was 34% contained. A time lapse of the fire vortex of Park Fire on Tuesday showed the fire intensifying as smoke continued to envelop the city. Regional cooperation in trade and investment, as well as energy and regional connectivity, gets an impetus in the first BIMSTEC Business Summit in New Delhi. India is a Vishwa Bandhu more so for the BIMSTEC as it looks to overcome the hurdles of free trade agreement, which needs to be sorted out even after 22 rounds of deliberations. More in this report.
The first edition of the BIMSTEC Business Summit over 2 days in New Delhi looked at multiple ways to foster greater regional cooperation among the member states. Robust trade and investment relations among the member countries of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation have immense potential, but the Free Trade Agreement, or FTA, needs immediate attention. India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal highlighted the need for India's role as the Vishwa Bandhu, more so for BIMSTEC.
Maybe we can begin with something small. Maybe we can begin with a preferential trade agreement, if not a full-blown FTA. But let's examine the realistic possibility and move forward on a fast-track basis.
India attaches great importance to the BIMSTEC, which links 5 countries from South Asia, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, India and Sri Lanka, and 2 from Southeast Asia, Myanmar and Thailand. The 2-day deliberation saw over 100 B2B meetings and brought together more than 300 key stakeholders.
The growing importance of digital payments, BIMSTEC member states should consider introduction of digital cross-border payment systems, trade settlements in local currencies and other elements of financial connectivity should also be pursued on a priority basis.
BIMSTEC grouping is home to over 22% of the world's population with a combined GDP of over $5 trillion. BIMSTEC is now the preferred platform for regional cooperation in South Asia. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live, India's President Draupadi Murmu arrives in Auckland on a 3-day visit to New Zealand. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar addresses the 10th National Handloom Day event in New Delhi.
The one common theme between all major cities across the world is hope and the promise of new opportunities and possibilities that gravitates people towards them.
The reason why we advocate green transformations is because you can retain the building and you can actually modify.
There's a lot that happens when you extract sand beyond sustainable limits. It's going to change your course of your river, it's going to widen the channel, it's going to damage, and we are paying a big price.
We have 2 water reservoirs on 84 acres of land. During periods when the river water is non-saline, we store water in these reservoirs. Throughout the year, We distribute this water to residents.
Tiny houses are in vogue. Less is more. Many also assume tiny homes are more eco-friendly.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Amritpal Singh. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that the government is committed to establishing a simple, efficient and fair technology-driven taxation regime in the country. Replying to the finance bill in the lower house of India's parliament, the Lok Sabha, the finance minister added that the approach to taxation has been to simplify it, reduce the burden on the taxpayer and make sure it's transparent and equitable.
Our approach has been that we bring in greater simplification of tax laws and procedures, and that we enable growth and employment in this country. So the twin approach for getting the taxation regime in this country a lot more simpler and technology driven has been the broad principle based on which the proposals have been laid before this august House.
India's President Draupadi Murmu has arrived in Auckland today on a 3-day visit to New Zealand. That's the second leg of her 3-nation tour. On her arrival in Auckland, the President was received by Todd McCalley, the Minister for Agriculture, Trade and Forestry, Neeta Bhushan, the High Commissioner of India to New Zealand, among others. The President will be travelling to Wellington on Thursday, where she shall be meeting with the Governor-General of New Zealand, Dame Cindy Kiro, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon and Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters. She will also be addressing New Zealand International Education Conference on Thursday. The President will take part in a community reception in Auckland on Friday before leaving for Timor-Leste. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar has stressed that the handloom products are a core component of Prime Minister's Be Vocal for Local initiative and called for promoting handloom in the true spirit of the Swadeshi movement. Addressing the 10th National Handloom Day at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi today, he described economic nationalism as fundamental to our spinal economic growth and economic independence.
Economic nationalism is fundamental to our spinal economic growth. Economic nationalism will have 3 impacts. 1, we will save foreign exchange. Second, जब हम बाहर से सामान मंगाते हैं तो हमारे लोगों से हम काम छीनते हैं, हम उनकी आजीविका पर प्रहार करते हैं. So employment will be generated. और जब ऐसा नहीं करेंगे, बाहर से नहीं मंगाएंगे, तो जो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप है वो भी बढ़ेगी.
All right, let's now take a look at all the updates from the Paris Olympics. In a big blow to India's medal hopes, star wrestler Vinesh Phogat has been disqualified on Wednesday from the Paris Olympics after she was found overweight ahead of her women's 50-kilogram category final match. Vinesh became the first Indian woman wrestler to reach the gold medal bout in the event on Tuesday. A statement issued by the Indian Olympic contingent said that Phogat had tipped the scales above the 50-kilogram mark and was disqualified. President of the Indian Olympic Association, P.T. Usha, said that she met with Vinesh at the Olympic Village Polyclinic and assured her that of all medical and emotional support.
We are providing Vinesh all medical and emotional support. The Wrestling Federation of India has filed an appeal to UWW to consider the decision to disqualify Vinesh, and IOA is following that up in the strongest possible manner.
India's Chief Medical Officer at the Paris Olympics, Dr. Dinshaw Pardiwala, elaborated on the extensive efforts involved in Vinesh Phogat's weight cut process.
The process of weight cut prior to the weight in the morning involves a calculated restriction of food and water. And besides this, the athlete needs to sweat, and that sweating is done with sauna and with exercise. The calculation from the nutritionist which is done is athlete specific, and Vinesh's nutritionist felt that the usual amount that she takes is about 1.5 kilograms totally over the day, which gives enough energy for the bouts. However, in the morning we found that despite all of our efforts, her weight was 100 grams over her 50 kilogram weight category, and hence she was disqualified. We had tried all possible drastic measures throughout the night, including cutting off her hair, shortening her clothes, and despite all of this, we could not make that 50 kg weight category.
Indian Sports Minister Mansukh Mandviya informed the Parliament that the Indian Olympic Association has lodged a strong protest with the United World Wrestling, and IOA President PT Usha is in Paris. The Prime Minister spoke to her and asked her to take the necessary action. The government is providing every facility to her, including personal staff for Olympics.
भारतीय ओलंपिक संघ ने अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कुश्ती संघ से कड़ा विरोध भी दर्ज किया है। नेशनल भारतीय ओलंपिक संघ की अध्यक्षा पीटी उषा भी अभी पेरिस में है। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्वयं उसके साथ बातचीत करके उचित कार्यवाही करने के लिए, उचित एक्शन लेने के लिए भी उसको कहा गया है।
And the Indian President also expressed her regret. Draupadi Murmu posted on Vinesh Phogat's extraordinary feats at the Paris Olympics, and she said that they have thrilled every Indian and done the country proud. While we all share her disappointment at the disqualification, she remains a champion in the hearts of 1.4 billion people. Vinesh embodies the truly indefatigable spirit of the Indian women, and her epic fortitude and resilience are already inspiring the future world champions from India. I wish her many laurels in the future." Unquote. And Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankar posted on X that Vinesh Phogat's remarkable performance at the Paris Olympics has made India proud, that we all share with her the pain and disappointment and the setback she has suffered. Her undaunted spirit remains a testament to courage, conviction and perseverance. She will remain a champion in the hearts of the people of this country. I wish her continued success and many more accolades in life." Unquote. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reacted to the latest developments posted on social media, and he wrote, and I quote, "Vinesh, you are a champion among champions. You are India's pride and inspiration for every Indian. Today's setback hurts. I wish words could express the sense of despair that I am experiencing at the same time. I know that you epitomize resilience. It has always been your nature to take on efforts head on. Come back strong. We are all rooting for you." And DD India's correspondent Narayan Singh joins us from Paris. So Narayan, is the decision final, though the IOA has appealed against it? Generally, how does it work? Do once the decision is taken, it's taken, or there is a chance for some allowance, some relook at the decision?
Amrit, if you take a look there, it's very, we can say, very tough to just, we can say that just make the decision opposite, because we know that the rules are the rules, and in the past also several times we saw that many athletes in the Olympics, in the World Championship, or in any mega event has been disqualified because of, if you take a look, the Usain Bolt, the big name in the world of track and field, the three-time Olympic champion. So in 2011 race 2, we found he was disqualified because of the false start. So Actually, the rules are clearly written there, and we know that if athlete, especially in the contact sports like in boxing, in wrestling, exceeds a weight, it's difficult to overturn that decision.
Well, it was an unfortunate thing that happened. Narayan Singh, thank you very much for joining us from Paris for the moment. And that's it in this edition of DD India Live. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amritpal Singh, and from my entire team here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.